now. So that way we are good to go moving forward. And just wanted to, so if someone is actually reviewing this recording later on, sorry you couldn't make it. But for anyone who's out here right now, I want to make sure that you know that you have the ability to unmute at any time and ask your question, directly to an expert. And man, I am so excited to bring this to you guys because this is vital, information for the times that we're in, where the industry is headed, and kind of help debunk a few myths that are out there. So, with all that said, I'm not going to spend a lot of time, introducing myself, but I am going to go ahead and, I appreciate. I see Sharice out here. Hello. Make sure you unmute anytime you have any questions. But we're just going to kind of dive right into things. So I'm just going to go straight to a screen share here. There we go. So we're going to go screen share. We're going to go here. Going to pull up my Jonas Brothers pose. There we go. All right. So if anyone has any questions or ever want to know how to reach me, guys, there's my website right there, www.jjgro.com, as well as my email address. Please, send me an email. Let me know what you have going on. That's how you reach me at any point in time if you have questions. So with all that said, we're just going to kind of dive straight into this. And what I wanted to do is it's kind of I'm trying to set the stage for everyone. I know there are people that are going to view this that are, that have been out here for a long time, and there are some people that are brand new. So you always start with the lowest common denominator in mind. So right now with these few slides, I'm thinking about that person who's brand new, that's thinking about going to make purchases, and I want to make sure they understand some basic concepts. So there are three terms that you need to know if you're going to go out and you're going to, search for products. And those three terms are full spectrum, broad spectrum, isolate. Okay. Now we're going to start off with full spectrum. I want you to think about full spectrum, kind of like daylight. I'm here in Mobile, Alabama. It is hot outside. I'm looking at the sun. But one thing I know about where I'm at, if it was to rain really hard and the sun comes right back out, when you look off in a distance, you will see a rainbow. Okay. And we all know a rainbow is a full spectrum reflection of all the colors in the light prism: your reds, your blues, your greens, your yellows. Okay. When you first extract the oil from the cannabis plant, the oils that you get are what we call full spectrum oils. So instead of reds, blues, greens, yellows, you'll have things like CBD, CBDA, CBG. You'll have all of these different cannabinoids in that oil that you extract from the plant. Now, with that being said, different cannabinoids are good for alleviating different conditions in the body. I'm not going to make medical claims, so I'm just going to leave it there, with that. So when we talk full spectrum, we're talking about everything in the plant, to include different forms of THC. The one the federal government is concerned about is the one that's highlighted in red right there, Delta 9 THC. By definition, if the Delta 9 THC concentration is greater than 0.3%, that is a marijuana plant or marijuana derivative all day long. If it is less than 0.3, we are talking hemp derived. If it is hemp derived, it is no longer a Schedule 1 narcotic, and it's legal for interstate commerce in all 50 states. If we're talking about something marijuana, 0.3 or above on that Delta 9 THC, that is still a Schedule 1 narcotic. So everyone needs to know the term full spectrum. Okay. Now, through time and temperature combinations of manipulating the oil, you can actually extract certain things out and leave other things in. So another definition you guys need to know, one step down from full spectrum, is what we call broad spectrum. Now, broad spectrum typically is associated with THC free products, but broad spectrum is basically two or more cannabinoids that are in a substance. So, if you remove the THC from a substance, you still have different cannabinoids that can alleviate certain conditions in the body, but there is no psychoactive effect to it, which is really important for that person who is a first responder, a firefighter, a military member, Department of Transportation truck driver. It's really important that they don't have THC in their system. So they may want to look at something that is broad spectrum and actually says on the labeling THC free, meaning no detectable levels of THC. Okay. So we've got full spectrum, we've got broad spectrum. And then one step down from that, you can isolate down to just the CBD molecule by itself. And something made out of CBD isolate, it looks like isolate looks like cocaine. It's a white powdery substance, right? And it's supposed to be a very pure, concentrated form of CBD, depending upon the extraction method. But something that's made out of isolate, as you can see here, it will alleviate certain conditions. But something made out of isolate is not as good for you as something broad spectrum. And something broad spectrum is not going to alleviate as much as something that's full spectrum. But when you go full spectrum, you run the risk of failing drug tests. And depending upon who your employer is, that can be a bad thing. So make sure you know the expectations of your employer when it comes to their drug testing protocols. And if you are subject to drug testing, do not consume anything that has THC, because because it is going to be an issue. Okay, so with that being said, oh, we got a hand up. Oh, I see a hand. Dr. Felling, what you got?
I was just going to add just a little bit to that, JJ. Be wary of any of the HHC products that are out there. Those are psychoactive. They are taken from legal, synthesized from legal hemp plants, but they metabolize in your liver, very similar to THC, and they will make you fail a drug test as well. For sure. Also, look at your specific state regulations. I'm
Absolutely.
in Arkansas. Arkansas is either last week or the week before, pretty much banned any quantifiable THC in anything that's outside of a dispensary here.
Absolutely.
So even though it's legal, it's kind of funny when you're in the cannabis industry doing medical cannabis. You're like, oh, it's illegal federally, but we're legal on the state side. On this side, yeah, it might be legal federally, but you need to look at your state side regs as well to make sure you are legal on the state side.
Absolutely, Dr. Felling, and that is a great precursor to some stuff that we're going to get into. But you are, you're right, and this is, these are new times that we're in this space, and a lot of people, they've heard about these things that we're talking about, but they're really not aware what it means yet, and that's why we're out here and we're gathered now because it's very important. Let's say for instance someone is looking, and this is some published research. Oregon State University a few years ago published some research saying that there are a couple of hemp derived, meaning below 0.3% THC, a couple of hemp derived compounds that prevent coronavirus from adhering to human lung cells. Okay. And those two cannabinoids are CBDA and CBGA. So if you hear about this research and you're dying to find something that contains these two specific cannabinoids, when you're standing at the front counter of that dispensary or that CBD, that smoke shop, how do you know that compound, that tincture or whatever you're about to buy has those specific cannabinoids on it? I'll give you another example. There's some recent research that's been done with CBC. Okay, not CBD, CBC. But CBC has some great anti-inflammatory properties as well. It says right here in this study, our results show that CBC is effective at reducing pain throughout many pain assays in both male and female mice, revealing CBC as a potential therapeutic option for treating only thermal pain, but also other diverse types of pain, neuropathic and inflammatory pain. So once again, you're standing at that counter. You want to know if what you're about to purchase has CBC in it. And you ask the person at the counter and they throw their hands up. They don't know. All they can tell you is, well, a lot of people buy this one. That's not good enough for you because you have specific things that you're trying to, or specific conditions that you're trying to alleviate. So, I am the CEO of Active Duty RX, and our product line, kind of like what we were talking about with Dr. Felling a second ago, our product line is a THC free product line. So there's no THC in our products, no detectable levels of THC, as well as we've placed extra CBG in these products. And I am very proud to say that, a Dr. Felling does a lot of our testing, for our products. That's one of the things that, brought us into, to where we're at today. So one of the things to be on the lookout, if you're standing at that counter and you have a product in your hand, or before you get to the counter, look on that product and see if you see this thing that's circled, that's in the square here. This is called a QR code. Okay. Now, the QR code, you should be able to scan this QR code with your phone. And when you scan the QR code with your phone, it should take you to a report card of what's in that actual bottle to show you the cannabinoid content, the various cannabinoids that are in that bottle. And the reason I have Dr. Felling here is because he is the owner and operator of Fast Labs in Greenbrier, Arkansas. So Dr. Felling was my partner when I actually owned a cannabis testing laboratory in San Antonio, Texas, called Veteran Scientific Laboratories. And Dr. Felling is a PhD level chemist. Can you hear me okay, Dr. Felling? I think you're muted right now.
I was gonna say, let me get me off mute, and then yes, I can
There
hear
you go. Yeah. So thank you so much for being here, taking the time to do this, because I know your time is extremely valuable. And I mean, other than picking the wrong branch of service, Dr. Fellings, he's an army vet. We give each other crap all the time about it. But you can tell he's changed a little bit, since this picture was taken, because he's been doing some things, working on his health, getting it together. I'm very proud of him.
you.
Uh, Dr. Felling, what brought you into this space, man?
What brought me into this space? Well, kind of make a long story short, I started out my career in academia. I was doing research at a university, or a few universities, and teaching. And then that was the first half of my career. The second
Mhm.
half of my career, I moved over into industry working for one of those hydraulic fracturing companies, getting natural gas out of the ground. Uh, we were making sure that we weren't doing what the media was saying we were doing, otherwise contaminating the earth with everything that they were putting down. Uh, I'm proud to say the company that I worked for had a very keen eye for that and didn't do any of that. Can't speak for others, but the company I worked for was very, very, very on top of environmental things like that. And then come 2015, huge downturn in oil and natural gas. And the company I was working for was laying off 40% of their workforce. And I didn't know if I was going to make that cut. So Fast Labs was born at that time, originally as an environmental lab, because Arkansas cannabis wasn't legal in 2015, wasn't legal medicinally or anything else. It was outlawed. And so got the lab set up as an environmental lab. And then in late 2016, uh, November to be exact, Arkansans voted in medical cannabis. And a person that helped me set up this lab, very good friend of mine, he tapped me on the shoulder one day and he said, "Have you ever thought about testing cannabis?" And I looked at him, I said, "No, haven't tried that mess since high school. Didn't work for me too well then.
You were trying to test it another way back then, huh?
Yeah, not really interested in that." And he said, he just looked me straight in the eyes and he said, "Do you test pesticides on soybeans?" And I was like, "Yes." He's like, "Do you test heavy metals on water?" I was like, "Yes." He's like, "Do you test for solvents in this?" I was like, "Yes." He's like, "Then you can already do everything. You just have to add potency to it." And he's like, "You're a PhD chemist. You can figure that out." Which turns out the potency is actually the easiest thing to do. It's also the easiest thing to mess up if you're in a lab as well. So long story short, I went from being 100% environmental company to now I'm 95% cannabis, split between medical cannabis in Arkansas and then hemp derived products that I test for people anywhere from North Carolina to California, coast to coast. Where I don't have any Alaska or Hawaii yet. So if there's any Alaska, Hawaii on the phone, just send me one sample so I can say, "Hey, I've got them all covered now." But anyway, did got into that in 2016. So we're now 2025, almost 10
And
years.
man, it's crazy. I retired in 2016, and that's when I started so we've literally been in this space about the same amount of time. That's crazy.
Exactly. And I like to tell people I've seen the highs of the industry and I've, no pun intended, seen the highs of the industry and I've seen the very, very, very lows of the
Yeah.
industry. If you're in this industry as a company business owner, you know as well as I, it's cutthroat. It's
Mhm.
a very difficult business to be in if you like to stand on ethics.
Yes.
Because people will try to tear you down at every point you make an advantage just to make a quick buck
Hmm.
and things. So that being said, though, if you stick true to what you do, you can get through all of that stuff and you can stand on your ethics and you can run a profitable business. And I'm testimony to that and things. So, that's kind of a long story short with me.
Yeah. And I'm really happy you stand on ethics because, I mean, that's my background. That's what I come from.
Mhm.
And, that was one of the things that, actually brought me closer to you was your ethics. And when you were explaining certain things to me, because I come from a medical lab background, I'm like, yeah, that's common sense what you're doing. And it's like if they don't understand that, then that's on them. Like your compass is pointed true north. That's where you need to stay. And I just think that's one of the things that solidified our friendship was I knew that I was dealing with somebody who had great ethics, and especially when it comes to testing, because people can do crazy stuff in this space, guys, when it comes to testing. Like some of these labs, they're for profit, right? And some of them can be manipulated into doing things with the numbers, and reporting out erroneous, not necessarily erroneous results, but falsely elevated results, because they went in there and they were doing some salt bay with some damn samples, and adding things to them that they shouldn't have added, rather than
Let
testing
me let
the
me cut
actual
in on you
ingredient.
real quick too.
Sure.
Elevated levels in the medical cannabis space, actually, you can get unelevated levels in the CBD space. So you can get people that, maybe their product hit at 0.4% THC, which is illegal. And you can mess around with numbers and you can make that look like it's below 0.3%
Right.
and things. So you have to look at it on both ends. It's not always elevation. Sometimes it's, you
Right.
know, people
Right.
not putting things that were detected that are actually there.
Absolutely. So, I appreciate, everything, that you've done, in this space. And with all of that being said, we're going to transition over to one of the things that you talked about previously, which was an actual potency test. So guys, when you scan that QR code for that product, and now different websites are set up different ways. Okay. Some websites will take you, when you scan that QR code, it'll bring you to the following screen. And this will, that product that you're holding will be the only option. And you open it and boom, this is the report that'll pop up on the screen. But some companies have multiple products, and you may have to scan through a few product, or swipe through a few products to find the actual COA, or certificate of analysis, for the product that you want. Now, I'm going to commit a cardinal sin. I'm going to go back a couple slides, but just to reiterate a point. Okay. So this is one of my products from my website. And right here, what you're looking at, this is the batch code for that particular product. So most COAs, they have a batch code somewhere on that packaging that you're holding. So when you're looking at the batch code and you scan the QR code, make sure you find the batch code for the product that is in your hand that you're holding. So as you can see on this product that we're looking at here, which is, one of my tinctures. Okay, you see on the left-hand side, you see the individual cannabinoids. Dr. Felton, do you want to take us through this?
Sure, I can take you through that.
Okay.
So the main thing here, at the top, kind of center, there's the lot and batch number. You obviously want to make sure your COA matches up to the product you're looking at, because just because one batch tested one way does not mean all batches test that way. You would hope that that company does pretty much hit it the same every time, but there is variability and there are mistakes that can be made. So make sure that the lot and batch number match up to what you're looking at there. If you're a company owner, definitely take JJ's advice. Put a batch and lot number on your label. That way, it's just one little extra thing that kind of elevates your product over others because it shows traceability back to when that product was made. Okay. So when you look at a COA, there's numbers everywhere, right? And if you're not used to seeing all these numbers, or you go cross-eyed looking at all these numbers, you know, whatever, you know, there are some important things here. The first thing you have to worry about is what's called the units that are listed there. And what I mean by units is, like, if I said you have a gallon of water, or I said you had a milliliter of water, you're still talking about the same number, one, in those cases. But a milliliter of water is vastly different from a gallon of water, you know, or you could say 1 pound of water versus 1 ton of water, you know, just two, those units mean a lot there. So the one that JJ's got circled there, per unit, what that means is per that bottle of tincture there, there's that many milligrams of each of those cannabinoids in there. So the CBC, there's 3 milligrams total in the entire bottle. If you take a milliliter serving of it, where it says per serving in milligram, that's, you know, if a milliliter is a serving or a gram is a serving, that's how much you would get in that one serving of the product that's there. So CBDA, for example, you get 1,630 milligrams, or CBD, excuse me, 1,630 milligrams of CBD in the entire bottle. But if you just took 1 milliliter, one dropper full of it, you would get about 50 milligrams of it, or 54 milligrams of CBD there. All great. So if you drop down to the THCs, which I'm a little OCD, so I put everything in alphabetical order on my COAs. The THCs are the last. So you have Delta 9 THC, Delta H THC, both psychoactive, both will make you fail a drug test. THCA won't make you fail a drug test until you smoke it. Until you smoke it. And then it decarbs into D9 THC, and you'll fail a drug test after that.
Yeah, just real quick, Dr. Felling, just so we're on, just you're touching on a hot button topic right now, because a lot of people are buying THCA flower because it's legal, right?
Right.
And basically all THCA flower is weed that has not been set on fire yet.
Exactly. Exactly. And then the last two are actually interesting ones, THCV, THCVA. That the A's just mean the acid form of each of those cannabinoids. And if you've ever heard that term, decarboxylation, basically all that means, when you heat it up, whether that's in a joint, in a bong, in the oven, it doesn't matter. Whenever you heat it up, that acid decarboxylates, the A goes away, and it becomes the other cannabinoid that's there. So THCA becomes THC, THCVA becomes THCV, and so forth on down. Everyone's heard of getting the munchies with D9 THC. THCV is interesting in that it's been proven to actually be an appetite suppressant. It doesn't give you the munchies, but people are starting to sell products of THCV. I'm wary of trying any of them myself, just because the long-term effects of THCV use just are not well known yet. Okay, so taking it in high doses, at least. It's always present in minor amounts in any medical cannabis you get. Hemp, it's kind of hit or miss. It just depends. It's strain dependent on hemp of whether it shows up or not. But it is a naturally occurring cannabinoid. One thing I will say is Delta 8 THC is not naturally occurring, in my opinion.
There we go. There we go. There it is.
No matter,
PhD level chemist. Come on, bring it.
yeah, no matter what anyone says, I have now I looked right before I got on. I've done like 212,000 potency tests
Jeez.
since 2016. I have seen Delta 8 THC appear naturally in cannabis / hemp less than 10 times out of 200 something thousand. So can it occur naturally? Yes. Does it normally occur naturally? No. Where you're getting these high doses of D8 is what they're doing is they're converting they're taking CBD isolate and
Mhm.
they're using chemical processes to convert it. You're talking to a PhD chemist here. I have no issues with chemical conversion of anything as long as you can clean it up and produce a product that is safe for others to consume. I have no problem opening a bottle of ibuprofen and using it for a headache. It's all synthesized in a lab. Okay. But you just have to make sure that who's producing it is doing it correctly.
And that, just to piggyback on what you're saying, that's the problem that we're experiencing right now in this space. And that's where a lot of the false narrative is coming from. Because of the fact that a lot of people have not ensured that all of these residual solvents have been extracted off of this material before they turn it over to someone to manufacture product. That's what they're after. That's what they're trying to prevent. They're trying to prevent people from getting hurt because people have not been good stewards of the process. Therefore, people are coming back and saying, no, you can't do it. And what we need in the space, we need better regulation and better enforcement of the regulations that are out there. But right now, I hate to say it, but they're trying to throw the baby out with the bathwater simply because so many people have done it the wrong way. So for all of you that are out there, oh, that's BS, man. We can naturally produce D8. Well, I mean, a lab owner who's done hundreds of thousands of these tests said less than 10 times he's so take that
I'm
for
not,
what it's
I'm
worth.
not saying it can't be done. It will take some genetics to to do it. I have seen a genetic of hemp that has produced darn near 100% CBD and no CBD in it.
Mhm.
So it can be done, but then you're
Mhm.
going to get more into things that others don't like as well, with those things called genetically modified organisms, GMOs. And
Yep.
that's what you're getting, whenever you get things like that. It's what you're getting in a cannabis dispensary as well. There's hardly any true cannabis strains anymore. They're all hybrids and they're all produced, to for medical and rec states to produce the highest amounts of THC possible. And
Mhm.
hemp, obviously, they're engineered the opposite way to produce as little THC as possible. But
Yep.
on a couple of other things on the COA that are really important we haven't gone over yet. This thing called LOD and LOQ. It's kind of the middle columns in this table that I have. LOD stands for limit of detection. That means that above that number, I can, if that is in your product, if any of these 16 cannabinoids are in your product above that level, I'll be able to detect it on my equipment. Okay. Detecting and quantifying are different things, though. Detecting just means, hey, I can say it's there, but I can't really tell you it's there in such a small amount. I can't be confident about how much is there. But I can say, hey, it's a minimum of, say, for T8 Delta 9 THC here, it's a minimum of 0.0144 milligrams per gram. Now, what does that mean percentage wise? Kind of go up to the CBN line, JJ. Yeah.
Okay.
The result on CBN in milligrams per gram is 0.734. If you look at the percentage, to get to percent from milligrams per gram, you just divide that number by 10. Okay. You divide that number by 10. So back at the delta 8 that he's got underlined of 0.0144 milligrams per gram. What
Wait a
that
minute.
means,
Delta 9 or Delta 8?
it doesn't matter. There,
Okay.
is that delta 9? Yeah. The 0.0144 delta 9 milligrams per gram. What that means is I can detect down to 0.00144% of delta 9 THC, well below the 0.3% threshold, for it being legal, not legal there. That's just detection, though. The right-hand column is LOQ. That's called limit of quantification. Otherwise, anything above that level, I can put a number to it. And I can say with a high degree of confidence, that cannabinoid's there and it's there at this amount. So otherwise, if I can using D9 as an example again, if I detect it at say 0.02 milligrams per gram, it's above the limit of detection, but it's below the limit of quantification. I can't put a number on it. What I would put in the result where it says ND, which stands for not detected, I would put DET there for detected. It was detected, but I can't tell you the number. It's going to be somewhere between the LOD, LOQ column that's there. But if it inched above that 0.0337, you would see a number in those first two columns that are there, kind of like you see for CBN and CBDA and all of those other things that are there. So why am I making a big deal out of this? You need to make sure the lab that you're using has set a limit of detection well below the 0.3% legal limit. All right. You need to make sure that they've set an LOQ below the 0.3% limit. These numbers change for me based on my COAs, based upon the product I'm testing and the dilutions I have to make on the machine to do it. But if you looked at any of my cannabis flower, medical cannabis flower, the LOD for THC is going to be above 0.3%, but it doesn't matter. Most of the flower I'm detecting is 20, 25% in that range. Okay, so always be aware of that. If they're not detecting low enough, yeah, the COA might say not detected, but it might not be detected just to 0.4%. And that doesn't help you any, because you might still be consuming something illegal at that point in time. Take it
Now,
away,
now,
JJ.
now, with that said, right, I'm keeping him, I'm trying to keep in mind it's gonna be some stoners. It's gonna be some people watching this thing that are high, like, man, I'm not gonna remember all of that, right? Because I just want to purchase this, man, you know. So to make a long story short, when you're standing there and you're trying to figure out whether or not to purchase something, if it said, in this results column, I'm gonna use Delta 9, okay? And I'm going to use ND, right? So basically, to make a long story short, if it says ND, that means there are no detectable levels above those limits that Dr. Felling was talking about in that substance. Okay. So some people say, well, it'll always have THC. It'll always, yeah, well, it very well may, but whatever is in there, it's below the detection limit of the analyzer. And it's also important to note that not every analyzer is the same, guys. You have HPLC, which is high performance liquid chromatography. You have gas chromatography analyzers as well, and you have God, there's one more. It's eluding me.
LCMS, liquid.
LCMS. Yes, yes. So you have different and it's the equated to going to three different friends' house, right? And they all have weight scales in their house. Now you go over to one friend's house and stand on their scale, it might say you're 200 pounds. You go over to the next friend's house, it may say you're 205. Well, you don't like that friend because their scale sucks, right? And you go to the third friend's house and it says you're 207 pounds. Well, when was the last time were the scales calibrated? Right? Are they the same manufacturer? Different scales are going to give you different things, just like different analyzers are going to give you different results. So it's very important to understand in this space, depending upon the lab that you're using, it's important to have consistency in the labs that you deal with for products because those results can change from lab to lab to lab depending upon the analyzers that they're actually using. Am I right?
But they shouldn't change if the labs are doing things correctly. They shouldn't be very far off from each
Right,
other.
right,
Like a scale. Difference between 200 205. Yeah, in your brain, there's a huge difference between 200 but no, not a huge difference,
right,
in real life when you truly think about that with it.
right.
But always be aware of that. Yeah, if you're a stoner, you're not going to worry about, just to use that term, you're not going to worry about the THC level in the
And
first.
by the way, stoners are not bad people. Like everything that I know in this space, I know because of stoners. I am not talking shit about stoners. I'm just, I'm keeping it real with the homies. So
Exactly.
it is what it is.
But if you are very, very, very concerned with THC, if you could get fired for
Yeah.
having it in your system, then definitely look at it. Another
Right.
thing that I would be very wary of, and this just whenever you're talking to any lab that's out there, I would hope no lab would tell you this, but 0 is a naughty number in
Hmm.
any analytical laboratory. There is no one that can tell you with absolute 100% certainty that there is 0 of anything in there. That's why we have to put if you're an accredited lab for sure, you have to put non-detect. You can't put 0 there because, yeah, we didn't detect it. It's 0 in our minds, but we do have a limit, that 0.0144 for delta 9, so we can say, yeah, we didn't detect it up to that amount. So if any lab tells you that 0 is a number they can achieve, you need to run
Run.
from that lab, and you need to run quickly because they do not know what they're talking about.
Right. And with that being said, so okay, so going back, running it back from the beginning, you walk in a store, there's a product that you're interested in, you scan the QR code on that product, you see the COA for the potency portion, which is the cannabinoid portion. But there's also another portion on a COA that you need to be concerned with as well, because they're also, oops, let me go straight to it. Let's see there. So they also test for heavy metals, microbiology, pesticides, residual solvents, and there's more testing. It's stuff that looks like this that's on that COA as well. This is part of what we call a full panel. So there's a potency, which is just cannabinoids, and full panels, which are your heavy metals, residual solvents, your pesticides, all of that stuff as well. And when you're standing there, trying to select a product, you need to make sure that a screen like this is all green, because different COAs are going to look different. Okay. These are Dr. Fellings. I know, I'm real familiar with what his looks like. And if everything is green and and it has no THC, or if you're a patient that's, dealing with cancer and you're specifically looking for THC, make sure the THC levels are in that product that you're about to consume. Because, this was an interesting thing, a while back when we first got the lab going in San Antonio, because I went to, and I'm not gonna name any names to protect I'm not gonna do that. But I went to a store and I got some Delta 8 gummies when they first came out, right? Because I wanted to see what all the hype was about. So I got a Delta 8 gummy, man, and I took that thing and I got MC hammered. Not only did I sleep well, I woke up the next day, I was still higher than a damn kite, and I just didn't feel right. So I wanted to know what was in this thing, and I'm like, wait a minute, I've got a my business partner's a PhD level chemist. Let me send him one of these, right? So send him one to actually test for himself. And as far as residual solvents, it came back negative for everything except that one down there at the bottom left on your screen, which is ethylene glycol. Okay. And at the time, dumb old Southern boy from Alabama, I'm like, Carl, what's ethylene glycol? He's like, JJ, that's antifreeze. I'm like, no shit. Are you serious? Like, I had a gummy in my mouth that had antifreeze in it. Are you kidding me? Right? Because, like, I'm pissed at this point because this is a pretty prominent company, right? And they are, I'm just gonna say that they're a veteran operated company, and not active duty RX, but they're a veteran operated company. And this is now, there could have been something that leaked into a vat one time. I don't know. All I know is I had a gummy in my mouth that had antifreeze in it. I was pissed, you know. So Dr.
Had
Felling,
antifreeze at about 3 times the action level too, JJ.
oh,
Just to kind of make a long story short, if you're wondering why in the heck would a lab use antifreeze in their lab, I use it in my lab all the time. We've got glassware that are called condensers, which have to stay cooled, like if you're making distillates and things like that. And the easiest thing to keep them cool is you run a flow of antifreeze water mixture, just like runs through your car, through your radiator. You run it through these coils and it cools everything down. But it's all made of glass. So if you get any crack in any part of that glass, there's only one place for that antifreeze to go, and it's down into what you're
Yeah.
trying to work with. So you have to be very, very careful with it and things. And we were able to catch that with this sample.
Oh, so somebody almost caught hands because I saw the owner of the company at a seminar, shortly after. I was pissed. But we worked through it, and I never put that information out there, but I just wanted to make sure that they were aware of this. And very sorry and all of that crap, but it's like, dude, like even one time is one too many times. So just wanted to make sure people, are aware that when they're looking at COAs, and like I said, there's other lists, there's more items. These are pesticides that were tested for, as well. And while we're on this, Dr. Felling, well, I call him Kyle, but how do they make contact with you? If people need your caliber of testing and your quality and your standards and your ethics, how do you want them getting in contact with you?
It's real simple. You can just go to our website. It's fastlaboratories.com. Fastlabs.com was taken. So don't go to fastlabs.com. That's not me. But fastlaboratories.com. If you need to know how to spell laboratories, I've gotten it down to an art. It's LABORATORIES.com.
Now I'm in Alabama. You're gonna have to spell fast too, because in Alabama we spell fast FASS.
Or you can always just reach out to JJ and he can get you into contact to me too, as well. His email address is a little bit easier than mine.
Yeah, yeah, but it's FAST Laboratories.
Yes.
So you definitely provide an amazing service, and I know you're doing things across multiple states, as well. And I know one of the sources of frustration for you, and it's not necessarily your fault, but when we had the lab in San Antonio, we were doing a great thing. The lab was registered with the DEA, for handling controlled substances. We were, we adhered to all the protocols and whatnot, and you actually help us establish those protocols for the DEA registration, right?
Mhm.
And we got our DEA registration done in San Antonio, Texas, but here you are in Arkansas, and yours isn't even done yet. And you're like, how the hell? Like,
I
that's crazy.
started my DEA registration in February of 2020
That's crazy.
and checked 3 weeks ago, and it's still sitting on someone's desk in Washington, D.C. I'm not certain whether that person's been laid off or not because it's been 5 years. So it's
That's crazy. That is crazy. But I want to point out to people that are concerned about that, the DEA registration has nothing to do with the numbers that a laboratory reports out. The
right,
numbers are associated with their ISO accreditation. Okay. That's where the numbers come from. The DEA registration part, it's like, hey, if you identify something as marijuana, something over 0.3, what are your protocols for handling that until it is disposed of, right? Do you
right.
have a secure place to lock it up? Do you have cameras that are monitoring it? Do you have sign-in sheets? What's your protocol? What days of the week are you, disposing of these, samples and things like that? That's what the DEA registration is about. So I don't want anyone thinking that they shouldn't rock with him or shouldn't test with him because he's not DEA reg. It's not his freaking fault. Okay.
I've got the email that says I'm good till December 31st of this year. I got an email last year that said I was good to December 31st of last year and an email the year before. So if you're worried about that, I'll forward you that email just so you know that I'm good there. But I will piggyback on that, JJ. The accreditation is the most important part of any lab
Yep, the IS.
that's out there. The accreditation covers your storage and your security and everything like that as well. But the DEA is just they're wanting you to, us as labs, to register with them just because, yeah, while we're just testing regular hemp, there's nothing really to worry about because it's all legal. But if we test something that's hot, then we automatically have marijuana on our hands at that time. And if the DEA walked in the door, well, they could technically arrest me for having marijuana in my possession at that time. So what the registration is for is really to keep us as lab personnel out of jail, for having anything with THC within our facility.
And I want to piggyback. Look, this turned into a piggyback session, right? All we do is piggyback, but it's great because we've known each other so long. We've got such a great flow that people are benefiting from this. But the other thing that I want to identify, if some of you out there and you're hearing this and you want to send him some things to test, and you're in another state, and you like this is you're gonna have to kind of read between the lines on what I'm about to say next. But this is just truth, okay? We do not know the THC content of whatever it is you're going to send until it comes off of the analyzer. That's when we have a definitive for how much THC is in that product. That those buds, those gummies, those whatever. That's when we know for sure. Prior to that, we have no freaking idea. You can't look at it. You can't put your hand on it and use the force and figure out how much THC. It doesn't work like that. So when you put something in the mail, I don't want you necessarily worried about, God, man, am I going to get busted for sending a sample to him? Well, we don't know what's in it. You know what I'm saying? But once we test it and we have a definitive for what's in that, yeah, that's not going to be, you'll get the paper results that you paid for, or you might get an email with a PDF file that you paid for testing results for a COA, but he's not, if it's over 0.3, he's not going to be sending that back to you in the mail because now we know that's weed and we know it's totally illegal,
Yeah, I'll piggyback off that a little bit
Oink,
also,
oink.
or add to it. Maybe not piggyback as much as add to it. If whatever you send me comes in over 0.3% THC, I am not required to report that to anyone. I will not report that to anyone until I am required to report it. So you don't have to worry about that. Say you're growing hemp and it came in at 0.31%. Yeah, it's illegal. What you're going to get is you're going to get the COA from me, and I'll probably add a line in an email to you saying, hey, this product is illegal. Wanted you to be aware. By this definition is illegal. Wanted you aware. And then whatever you do with it from there, that's your business, not mine. What I'm going to do with it, I'm going to keep it for 90 days in storage. And come day 90, it's getting burned behind my lap.
There you
Not
go.
in a joint, in a fire, in a barrel. That's how I dispose of all of
And
my.
you just so happen to be in Greenbrier, Arkansas on day 91, and you got some Funyuns, you stop on by and you see Kyle. Nah, I'm joking. That's a
I've
bad
got
joke.
I've got a sheriff's deputy that lives 2 doors down from my lab, and he comes up and tells me, I can tell you're destroying today because, yeah, the smell, it smells. So,
Yep. So we definitely wanted to, talk about these things and something else that, since I got you out here and you're the one who brought me up to speed on these bad boys. So I wanted to give you the opportunity to chat on a little these cartridges as well, because these cartridges, this is a picture of a cart, right? You've got some oil that's sitting in a glass container and there's a metal cylinder inside of there that oil is against. And there is a concept that Dr. Felling introduced me to. It's called leaching. Okay. So those of you that consume or you smoke these carts, listen up because he's about to share a good nugget with you about what leaching is.
right. So, leaching is kind of what that sounds like. If a leech gets on you, what is it doing? It's sucking your damn blood, right? That's what a leech does. Well, what leaching is that concentrate that's in that vape cart. It's able to suck things out of whether that's a glass or plastic cylinder that's surrounding it. Anything that's in that glass or plastic has the potential to get sucked into that distillate or that concentrate that's in the vape pen. The same thing is true for the metal that's surrounding it as well, including the metal of the coils that are there. And so I always caution people, and this it's more I typically caution business owners, not so much the end user, because you don't really have a lot of control over it as the end user. But as a business owner, if you're filling these suckers, watch where you're buying them from. Just because you're getting a good deal doesn't mean that what you're purchasing is really safe to put anything in that's going to go in a person's lungs. Because stainless steel made across the world is not the same. Okay. Stainless steel made in the US has a ton of regulations on it. EPA regulations, Environmental Protection Agency regulations, um, health department regulations on them. Stainless steel can only contain a certain number of metals. And if you didn't know, stainless steel is a mixture of iron and cobalt and nickel and a few other things, depending upon where it's made. China doesn't have the same regulations that the US has. And I'm not saying the US regulations are perfect. Please don't misunderstand me there. Okay, but China basically, if you're comparing them to the US, is unregulated in those regards. And so a lot of their stainless steel comes back with lead in it, comes back with chromium in it, comes back with cadmium in it, and a bunch of metals that aren't good to get in your lungs. That being said, what do you do about it? As an end user, you can't do much about it. If you're vaping a lot and you start getting sick, you might stop using that, and see if you get better. And then if you start using it again, you get sick again, then you can kind of make a cause and effect relationship there. But I tell companies, typically, if you're going to be selling it as an inhalable vape product, send the sample to us already pre-packaged the way it's going to be to the end user. Because yeah, you can put that distillate just in a vial and send it to us, and we can tell you, everything about it. We can tell you how much solvents are in that, any pesticides in it, all the different cannabinoids. We can tell you how many heavy metals are in that concentrate. But if it hasn't ever been exposed to that vape pen,
Mm-hmm.
then yeah, you're going to get a reading of what you put in it, but
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to get a reading of necessarily of what people are sucking out of it
Yep.
and putting into their lungs. Now you might say, well, how does that affect me if that cart was not produced by me and I just use the cart? They can sue that person, right? No, they'll sue you and they'll sue that person, and you'll have to pay to defend yourself, whether you are innocent or not. And I can tell you, if you haven't worked in this cannabis industry long, you will get sued one time or multiple. All right. And it gets expensive. You don't want to see attorneys' bills, and you might be saying, "I'm talking." You're talking like someone's been sued. Yes, I've been sued. I told you, everybody's been sued that's been in this industry. And whether you're innocent or not, you're going to spend a lot of money defending your innocence. That if you could do a few things prior, will prevent that from happening. So I always tell people, send it prepackaged, and even that really isn't the best. I mean, it's better than sending it just concentrate in a bottle. But realistically, the best is have someone toke on that a few times and get it through a few heat cycles, because what's going to accelerate the leaching into the concentrate is the heat from the coils that heats it up and burns it. So, it's kind of a hard cookie to crack, so you kind of do the best you can. What I typically tell a client that's using the carts for the first time from a supplier is, yes, let's send it prepackaged the first time. We'll take a couple of tokes off of it, and when I say that, I'm not physically doing it. I'm putting an air compressor or a vacuum thing up to it a couple of times just to suck it through and get it through a few heat cycles. And we'll test it like that once or twice the first couple of times you use them. But after that, if they prove to be good, then we can go back to vials, we can go back to anything, but then you have your evidence that if you do get sued over those things, you can say, look, I'd had a good faith measure of trying to make sure this was safe for the people that bought this from me. I tell people all the time, cover your ass. That's
Yeah.
what you always have to do in this industry, because if you don't and just think, oh, everything's going to be fine, that's when you're going to get caught up in something that you don't want to get caught up in.
Yep. And to piggyback on what you just said, one of the things as a consumer that you can probably do to kind of mitigate some of that risk is try to figure out how long that oil has been in that cartridge before you purchased it. Because the longer it's in that cartridge, if it sits in that cartridge for 2 or 3 months before you actually purchase it, well, more leaching can take place. But if it was a cart that was just produced last week, well, there's probably not a lot of leaching or any at all at that point. So you as a consumer have to ask these conscious questions so that you're selecting the best product, for your individual consumption yourself.
Right.
Yep. So, man, this has been great. Time's gone really fast. We do have a few people out here and wanted to give them an opportunity to unmute and ask any questions if they have them, based on, product consumption, product, selection, things like that. If you guys have questions, this is the perfect time to unmute because, shortly after we'll be, going our separate ways. This was recorded. It will be posted to my Facebook pages, but wanted to give you guys a chance to ask questions to someone who actually does the testing. I'm looking at the microphones. They're all still showing muted right now. Nobody's unmuted. Oh, we got one. I see a classmate unmuting. Oh, she just muted back.
I'm
Come on.
trying to figure out how to do it. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. How are you this evening?
I'm good. I just wanted to say, don't have any questions. I feel like I'm going to have to watch this a couple of times because some of it went over my head, but it was very informative and I really enjoyed it.
Awesome.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much, Amy. Kyle, just so you know, we went to high school together. She knew me from a freshman, all the way through graduation, and we're
I'm
still friends to this day.
so sorry, Amy. I am so sorry.
Haters are gonna hate. That's what y'all do best.
He cracked me up a few times, I have to say. So,
I've been known to have that effect on people from time to time.
but I did enjoy it, and I plan on. I haven't been in the world of CBD, CBG, cannabinoid, or anything like that. I guess I'm kind of like everybody else. You try something in high school, and then you're like, okay, that's not for me. But I recently, well, several years ago, got sick, real sick, with after COVID, and had developed long COVID. So after that, I really would try anything to get my body back to normal again. And my good friend here has sent me some of his products that have really, I feel like they've kind of turned my life around.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And Amy, just so you know, you're talking to the man who does the testing for those products you consume.
Well, I appreciate that because whatever you're doing, keep doing it because they're working for me. And
Hey,
I can tell you, I was in a very debilitated state for a while. I was an MRI tech for 20 years at a local hospital, and I had to quit because I was unable to get out of bed or do anything. And I've tried all kinds of stuff to get my health back on track, and so I still have issues. I'm not 100%, but I'm able to do more things because of the supplements that he sent me and the tinctures that he sent me. And I don't know, I don't want to think it could be coincidence. I really feel like it's helping. So I don't know. I'm going to keep doing it. So hoping for the best.
That makes me happy. It really
Yeah.
does.
yeah, I tell people all the time, whether it's broad spectrum CBD, full spectrum CBD, full on medical cannabis. I will say I typically do tell people shy away from the isolate only
Mhm.
materials. My wife has a bachelor's in nursing, and kind of when we got into this industry, we got into it together. She focused more on the medicinal side. I focused more on the analytical chemistry side of it, but we learned a ton. And what we learned partly from that is isolate materials just are not typically as effective as a broad spectrum or full spectrum material. Full spectrum is the most effective, I'll tell you. But if you're an MRI tech working in a hospital, or you're a police officer or in the military, you obviously can't have THC in your system. And so
Right.
that's where broad spectrum is the best place to go after that. But where it does have a lot of amazing uses and works for a lot of amazing conditions, I do caution people and just tell them, be realistic though, it will not cure everything. Okay. Cannabis
Yeah.
does not cure everything. And a lot of activists will try to make it sound like a lot of
Yes,
times.
yes.
It's not that much of a miracle drug.
Yeah.
But what it does work on, it works on very well. And that's where you need to focus on those things. As I'm boring JJ, look at
No,
on
no,
in.
dude. No. I'm waiting. Like I was gonna transition to something else, but I'm waiting. I'm not bored at all.
When you say isolate, do you mean just like one of those cannabinoids? Like
Right.
if you get a tincture of just CBG
Yeah.
or something like that? Because I have another friend that has a hemp company nearby, and he gave me some CBG, but I haven't had as much luck with that, I guess, making me feel better as I did with JJ's stuff that he sent me, because I guess it has everything in it.
So let
It
me
has so many
Exactly.
more things in it.
let me show you let me show you exactly why right now. And I was glad that Kyle was chatting for a few minutes because it gave me a chance to actually pull up, my website. Okay. So my website is www.activedutyrx.com. And from here, if you go to shop, okay, it's gonna bring up, my products. Now, the tincture that I have you on, Amy, is this one right here. It's called the Moab. All right. Stands for Mother of All Botanicals. Okay. All right. So if you click on Moab, all right, and then you scroll down to the bottom, at the very bottom on my website, right here, you have the COA for that tincture. Okay. And it's from Fast Labs. Woot woot represent. All right. So page one, you see the primary, cannabinoids that are in that product: CBD, CBG, CBN. But if you look at page two, which gives a further breakdown of the cannabinoids that are in here, you see that you have the CBC that is there. Okay. You have CBD, which is there. You have CBDA, which is in that tincture. You have CBDV, which is in that tincture, right? You have CBG, which is in that tincture. You have CBGA, which is in that tincture. And you also have a little bit of CBN, which is in that tincture. So the more cannabinoids you have, right, the more you're going to work towards that entourage effect with your endocannabinoid system, supporting CB1 and CB2 receptors. So if somebody is giving you something that is just CBG, well, CBG has the ability to do a lot in the body, but CBG by itself might not be, the silver bullet, for what someone has going on. And with that being said, we also have to go back and look at, something else as well. And I'm just going to go back here and go, back a screen or two. Okay. So we also have you currently right now on our clarity and focus formula as well. And our clarity and focus, it has CBD isolate, which is just the CBD, molecule, but it's also got 18 other vitamins and minerals in that product. So we work on the gut biome and gut health with things like turmeric, moringa, the ashwagandha root, the rosemary, the lemon. So we're working on your gut biome at the same time as we're working on, the brain activity as well. So it could be something in that combination that's helping you more than just the CBG. So I decided to hit you with multiple things to give you the best chances since you were experiencing decreased energy as well. So this capsule has the N-acetylcysteine in it as well, which helps produce the energy production in the mitochondrial pocket of your cell. So who know,
That
like,
one, that one, my doctor, I just went to for a checkup, and my doctor said that she's heard that that particular supplement has been known to help people with long COVID. So, I mean, that could be it. You know, that actually helps me, I feel like, the most. I actually feel like I have more energy after I take that.
right,
Whereas I think the other ones kind of, build on you daily.
right.
And it's not so much instant effect, but that one in particular, I really feel like it helps me, in my daily life.
Well, you look, I'm tickled pink because when I first heard about what was going on with you, I just reached out to be a friend. I had, I was praying to God that it had the impact that it would, and it has. But I am
Yeah.
really happy to see, where you're at on your journey right now.
Well,
Right.
thank you so much. I appreciate it, and thank you, doctor. I really enjoyed listening to you.
It's not a problem. One thing I do want to caution you on
Yes,
is
sir.
um, anytime you're taking any tincture or capsule or anything, the effects of the cannabinoids, let's just use CBD as an example, doesn't matter how you're taking it, but the effects of the cannabinoids are a buildup effect. They are a sustained effect in your system. And a lot of people do get disappointed sometimes if they take a product, say, once and
Yeah.
they don't feel anything.
Right.
And I tell them, I'm like, you got to take it at least for a week and a week and a half
Hmm.
daily
Yeah.
to really see the effects of the cannabinoids. That being said, in that clarity and focus, the good thing is all the vitamins that they do add to that, some of those do have, like you said, Amy, the instantaneous effects. So it's,
Yeah.
and JJ used the term entourage effect, which is used a lot of times with terpenes, which terpenes.
He told me about that. Yeah, he kind of tried to explain it. I'm kind of learning a little bit
Right.
as I go.
Right. Terpenes are what makes marijuana, cannabis smell the way it smells. Okay.
Okay.
That's why certain strains of cannabis might smell sweet and certain smells like dirty socks. It just
Okay.
depends on who's smelling it with those type of things. But if you ask my opinion, and it's my opinion only, I will qualify it with that. Do not say, hey, Dr. Felling just said this. My opinion is terpenes are the most medicinal part of a cannabis plant.
Okay.
More medicinal than THC, more medicinal than CBD is. Terpenes have a very, very, very strong mental effect on people. And you should know that. Just knowing that it smells, you know that if you go by a porta potty and smell it, what do? You crinkle up your nose and you're like, someone just took a, and go off. But then if you
Yeah.
go by a bakery, you're like, oh, I want to walk in there,
Yeah.
type of thing. Terpenes kind of do the same thing with you as well. They have a huge mental effect on you.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's good to know.
Yep. So, does anybody else have anything else before we disconnect? I'm looking at the microphones and see if anybody else unmutes, and I think we're good to go. So once again, Dr. Felling, thank you so much for your time. And I want to end on, if everyone needs to contact him, it's Fast Laboratories, correct?
Fastlaboratories.com. Yes.
FAST Laboratories.
Or if you go to his website and pull up any of those COAs, I think it's in the footer of the COAs is
Yep.
that
Yep.
website. And then I think in the header it's got phone number and address and email address as well for me. And if it's info@fastlaboratories.com, just know it comes straight to me. I'm a very involved owner in my business. I don't I don't let a lot of people into my circle. Put it
No,
that
he
way.
does not. That's that PTTD.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Kyle. Thank you so much to the guests who came out. I hope this was beneficial to you guys. And if you hear someone who wanted to be here, couldn't be here, please share the recording with them. It'll be up inside the next half hour. on my Facebook pages. And please feel free to share it around with everyone, and let's help some people feel better. So once again, Dr. Felling, thank you so much. Army strong. And y'all have a good evening.
Thank you, guys.
All right, y'all take care. Bye-bye.